Welcome to It Is Always Now with Marty Long. Get ready to open up and let true joy into your life. Join Marty for conversations about inclusivity and respect, the importance of curiosity, and making change happen. Your journey of exploration and discovery into the greater world around us begins now. Here's Marty.
Greetings. My name is Marty Long. My goal is to encourage you to awaken your curiosity. Curiosity is what keeps us seeking and finding truth and lasting joy. Some years ago, companies began monitoring and judging employees based on this 1 to 5 scale. Many companies still use it. They say they want their customers to let them know how their company and staff are doing. You've heard this. Please answer this question based on a scale of 1 to 5, where 5 is fantastic and 1 is unacceptable, something like that. Well, that sounds good, sounds reasonable, except for one thing. Over time, I have learned that many, if not most, of these companies only accept 5 as good. If their employees are given even a 4, they're considered under par. Their status might immediately be lowered. Some time ago, I purchased a car. The salesperson asked me to give him a good review, as many do, and who can blame them, but I was inclined to do it anyway. He'd been very helpful, answered all my questions, hadn't put pressure on me, made sure I looked at the alternatives. Even the finance guy was great. Now, these companies also want to know about their products. They say they welcome observation so they can do better going forward. There was one thing about this car, I can't remember what it was, that I thought could be improved. So I shared my brilliant idea with them. I assumed this had nothing to do with the salesperson, and I was wrong. Shortly after I had submitted this, I received a call from the salesperson asking why I had done this to him. He'd been called out immediately. I had to take a step back. It took a second, but then I realized that this company expected their salespeople to address any product concerns and convince them that their car was perfect in every way. How despicable. So now I just give everyone and everything a 5, unless I'm really unhappy, and then I don't take the survey. They clearly aren't interested in my concerns. They're not going to make changes based on what I suggest. I can live with that. Not my problem. But I do believe I'm responsible for how I grade all of the many ideas and information that come at me every day. Let's start with 2 words. First word, consider. Webster says this means to think of in a particular way, to regard or treat in an attentive or kindly way. I like that. To regard or treat in an attentive or kindly way. Second word, redetermine, or you could say reframe. To determine something previously determined again. Redetermine based on new data, new information. We make decisions based on the information we have at a given time, and then we get additional information. We need to rethink. We may stay with our first conclusion. We might modify it a bit. We'll never know unless we consider. So about this 1 to 5 scale, I think it's valid if properly used, and I think it's properly used only if you consider all 5 numbers, all the levels. We make choices almost every day, what to eat for breakfast, what to purchase. Perhaps you're looking for a puppy. You've done your research online, watched dog shows on TV, have friends who have puppies and dogs and played with their puppies and dogs, and now you know what you want. You've considered the size, the breed, the color, the disposition. You've considered everything based on what you've learned so far and determined what you want. A smallish, tan pug who's not barking constantly, but comes up to the door of his cage and looks longingly at you. That will be your 5-star dog. So off you go to the pet store or a place where you can adopt a rescue, and there you see so many puppies. As you look around, you see your pug. They have one. He's not barking. The approximate size and color you wanted. Seems calm and is looking longingly at you. Off you go to find someone so you can tell them what you've decided. And on the way, you glance over and happen to see a black and white Frenchie who's also looking longingly at you and wagging his tail and pawing a bit at the door of his cage like he's saying, "Take me, I'm a perfect doll." So now you reconsider. You have new information. It changes things. You redetermine. The Frenchie has stolen your heart. All of a sudden, the Frenchie is the 5 and the dear sweet pug is now a 4. Unless, of course, you're going to take them both home. Do you see my point? Most things in life are not all or nothing. There are many shades of gray. New information comes at you all the time. Very few things are a 1 or a 5. Absolutely perfect, absolutely wrong. Don't you think? You know, you already made up your mind on something and new information comes along. You may think, well, I've already got this all figured out. I know my conclusion is right. And since this new information seems to contradict that new information is obviously wrong, and I'm not even going to consider it. I really think you might want to consider it. Now, here's a different scenario. You have a friend, 5-star all the way. Then someone tells you something you would not expect this friend to do. Let's say they got really angry with a clerk in a store and made a scene. You find out that is what happened. You start to wonder if this is the kind of friend you want to have. Do you immediately drop them from a 5 to a 1? Is that really your only option? Or maybe you go and talk to your friend. You find out they had a good reason to be upset. They admit they overreacted and they're quite embarrassed about it. As you talk, you find out they've been really stressed lately at work and, oh my, they're actually having problems in their current relationship that you thought was perfect. So maybe you cut them some slack, give them another chance. Maybe they drop to a 4, but you're willing to get more information and reconsider. My overall point, whatever you've determined to be true, if new information comes along that there might be more to this, at least consider it. Look at the big picture. Now, here's a quote from my go-to book, 100 Ways to Keep Your Soul Alive by Frederick and Marianne Broussard. Recognize magic. John Wellwood in Ordinary Magic. Magic is a sudden opening of the mind to the wonder of existence. It is a sense that there's much more to life than we usually recognize, that we do not have to be confined by the limited views of our family, our society, our own habitual thoughts. That life contains many dimensions, depths, textures, and meanings, expanding far beyond the familiar beliefs and concepts. I want to reread one of the phrases. You do not have to be confined by the limited views. Here's some quotes. First quote, James Dewar. Minds are like parachutes. They only function when they're open. And an open mind pairs up with an open heart. And then an open soul. That's how new ideas find us. That's how the light gets in. Here's a quote from Winston Churchill. To improve is to change. To be perfect is to change often. Well, I don't think any of this will be exactly perfect, but we should keep striving for that, and it will mean often changing. And why do we change? What's the value? for us when we do this? I like what Gail Shelby says. If we don't change, we don't grow. If we don't grow, we're not really living. And we do want to be living, yes? Roy Bennett says this: change begins at the end of your comfort zone. Yes, new ideas often make us uncomfortable, but that's okay. That's why we need to evaluate carefully. Creativity, curiosity, these are the things that open our mind, our heart, our soul. So back to this scale. Here's how I see each of the 5 numbers as it relates to evaluating information. A 5 means you find it to be true. You can embrace it fully because after you researched it, you realize that it pretty much always agrees with everything you already believe. But still look at it carefully. Maybe there's even more meaning. Number 4, appears good on the surface, well worth considering. Number 3, much of it's good, but there's some things in there you aren't sure about. Consider with caution. 2, red flag. Actually, it appears bad on the surface. It really seems to be contradicting what you thought you already knew. But go ahead and consider it, just to make sure you're not missing something. Now, I had to put this for number 1, danger. Sometimes every instinct tells you that something just isn't right. Not just your mind, not just comparing it with what you think you already know, but your instincts. There are some of those that you really should just let them go by. You see why I call this a mindfulness scale? I looked up the word mindfulness using Google, and it seems they use the Oxford Languages Dictionary here. The quality or state of being conscious or aware of something. Number 2, a mental state achieved by focusing one's awareness on the present moment. And I would say the present moment might be this new idea, while calmly acknowledging and accepting one's feelings, thoughts, and bodily sensations. It's about more than just words compared to words. We need to listen to all of these things. We really do. Feelings, thoughts, and even bodily sensations. Well, I'm going to end by reading the conclusion in my cornerstone book. It is always now, page 21. As you meditate, pray, study, ponder, your conclusions will slowly evolve and solidify. Then, as you encounter new ideas and concepts, you have something to compare these against. In some cases, you may dismiss this new information. In other cases, you might find that this new idea, this new concept, not only fits into your belief system, but adds strength and meaning to it. The important thing is to never completely dismiss a new idea at first glance. Well, now I would add, except for those extreme ones. But also do not accept it at face value without careful consideration. Almost always there's some truth. So evaluate all new information carefully, and this is what it means to wonder wisely. So as you meditate, pray, study, ponder, remember this. It is always time to wonder wisely. Now is always the time to consider, determine, redetermine. It is always now.